I'm having a right old giggle from my thumbnails for this one. So you might have noticed, oh, hello. Is it working? Let me turn the gain up. I think that would be a little bit better. Oh, if you're on, please let me know that the bloody sound's working. Good Lord. I hope you're all doing really, really well. Welcome to A Speech a Week. My name is Pippa, and I'm just going to quickly log on my phone. Yep, I'm live, it's working, you can hear me, fabulous. So, welcome to A Speech a Week. As I was saying, I was just having a little giggle at my thumbnails. I like to make my thumbnails a little bit artsy, fartsy at the minute. What am I saying? By kind of being the character, you know, and like giving me a little snippet of me in the character's space. And for this one, I mean, the stakes are super high for Paulina, so I was just like shouting at my phone and off camera. Can you see? And then I was like, maybe it's just a nice one. But anyway, for now, you've got a pretty rubbish one on my that I took on my laptop. But we might get something really dramatic. So much fun, so silly. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. Let's get cracking. The idea of well, I wanted to do this speech initially because we've just looked through Hermione's. If you've missed all of those videos, go back. We did Hermione and Leonti's conversation at the beginning of this scene over the last few weeks. I think we did it over maybe 3 or 4 weeks, actually. Really going into depth about what the situation is and talking about Hermione's circumstances at this point. I wanted to look at Paulina because, again, I often hear as an acting coach and someone who watches a lot of auditions and has done them myself and speaks to actors, you know, on daily. You know, Shakespeare's women are just a bit, I want to find a strong Shakespeare women. Like there are no strong Shakespeare women. And I wanted to just kind of put this out there and do Paulina to give you an example of how in one scene alone, we have 2 fiery, fierce, intelligent, smart, means the same as intelligent, isn't it? But socially, like, powerful women speaking their minds and talking from their hearts. And so in this one scene alone, we have 2 of those. Think how many Shakespeare has provided us throughout the course of his whole plays. If you're one of those actors who has found yourself saying, oh, you know, the female identifying characters in Shakespeare's plays are a bit, you haven't listened enough and read enough and watched enough to see otherwise. There are so many amazing women. And so, yes, I really wanted to look at Paulina. And full disclosure, as usual with these speech a weeks, I do a little bit of work on them if I have time. Sometimes I don't. The last time I actually saw this bit performed was a while ago by a friend of mine who did it really well, and she had this lovely Somerset accent with it, and it was just amazing. And so I've never actually read this out loud myself. And that's the whole point of this as well. I want this to be an interactive, we're learning together, and show you that, you know, even people that work at the RSC and you know, professional actors, and you have to do the work on it. It's not an instant thing, usually. That being said, my 2 biggest pieces of advice with Shakespeare are read it out loud. It's no good. Hi, Ryden. It's no good sitting there going like this. Get up off your ass and read it out loud. Say these words. Stand up tall, look at the line, and then say it without looking at the page. It will really help you understand it. My second piece of advice is just listen to it, or the first time you do read it out loud, let it wash over you. Let go of this silly notion that's been put on you by, you know, whoever, that you have to really study Shakespeare. Shakespeare's hard. It isn't. It's the most visceral and linguistically emotional language I think that has ever been written. A lot of classical text is like that, in fact. But of course, he is, you know, the pinnacle, apparently. But let's not tell him that because his head will get too big. So before we go into Paulina, what's really, really important to notice and talk about is what's happened as Hermione's finished her main chunk, and what's gone on before Paulina's speech. With any monologue that you're doing, it's really, really important to understand exactly what has just happened for your character. I'm clicking my fingers a lot today. Just want to be in like a harmonizing quartet. Lovely. Oh, hi, Alice, as well. Ryden says he saved up for a taste course with actors. Good, I've not heard of that. Have fun. Yes, I see you're based in New Zealand. Super exciting. There's some good stage combat folk out there as well. So if you're interested in fighting, definitely check that out. Anyway, welcome, Ernest. Guten Tag. It's really important to know what's going on just before your character starts speaking, especially if you're going into an audition, a professional or a drama school audition. If you don't know what has just been said to your character, I'm sorry, there's just no point you even doing it. You have got to be really clear on that. Know what has just happened in the lead up for sure, but be 100% verbatim sure of what has just been said to your character and what your character has just seen. So what's really important to remember here is that Hermione, so someone's come in, an officer has come in and declared Hermione's innocence and Polixenes' innocence and Camillo's innocence, okay? Doesn't matter if you don't know these people for now. I'm not here to do a whole spiel about A Winter's Tale, but go read it and have a little watch of it or something. And Leontes is Hermione's, just quickly, Leontes is Hermione's husband, king of Sicilia, and he's accusing her of infidelity and treason and has been torturing her, has taken her newborn child away. She's given birth to a child in like a prison, and Paulina is Hermione's kind of waiting woman. Some people say she's a bit of a spiritual witch kind of person, and there is absolutely a supernatural air in this play. And looking at Paulina's language, I definitely get the witchy vibes from it. I love it, Lady Macbeth feels. And so what's happened is an officer's just come in. Hermione's been put on trial. She's just declared her innocence. She's saying like, look, you know me, this is bullshit. I'm innocent, come on. And then Leontes is like, nah, you're a witch. I don't like you. He didn't say you're a witch, but he's like, no, you're lying. You've let me down. You can look for no more than death. At this point, Hermione doesn't care about dying. Her eldest son has been taken away. He's probably been killed. She doesn't know where her youngest daughter has gone. Her newborn child has gone. Yeah, the stunt scores. We can pull out of here. Anywho, came late. Sorry, what passage is on the menu for today? Yes, Ernest, it's Paulina, Winter's Tale, Act 3, Scene 2, the same scene we were doing. Line 173. Well, we're going to go back. So line 169 odd, when Paulina re-enters. I'm just filling everyone in on what happens before Paulina re-enters. Okay. I've lost my train of thought now. Clicking again. Hermione doesn't care about dying at this point. She's had enough. She just wants to clear her honor for her children's sake. That is it. And I'm sorry, but that's a strong woman right there. Give these women credit, please. So an officer enters and he swears that she's innocent. There's this letter saying that they're all innocent. Leontes doesn't believe it. I'm really just whizzing through what happens here. He doesn't believe it. He's like, nah, Apollo's a liar, whatever. Hermione's like, thank God. Everyone's kind of like, oh, we're cleared. But then a servant enters. So Leontes is still sure that she's guilty. And Paulina sees this. Paulina is watching all of this unfold. A servant enters and then says that the king's son is dead. So Hermione's first son, who was taken away from her. Hi, Rodney. Act 3, Scene 2. Act 3, Scene 2, line 169 onwards. I'm just filling everyone in what's happened since Hermione's just finished her beautiful speech that ends with, Apollo, be my judge, and what's going on. And the servant tells Leontes that his son is dead. Mamilius is dead. And this is Hermione's firstborn child, who she mentions in one of her speeches as her second joy and first fruits of her body. From his presence, she is barred like one infectious. So she's not been able to see her son. And then the servant runs in and is like, he's dead. He's gone. Leontes is like, where's he gone? And then the servant is like, he's dead. Hermione, it says Hermione swoons. Paulina says, so straight away, when her mistress is down, Paulina is in there speaking, helping her. So again, strong woman. She should, probably on trial as well with Hermione, as I mentioned in the last live we did. She probably should shut up and keep her head down, but she doesn't. She's instinctive and she's straight on to protect her missus. How now there, she says, this news is mortal to the Queen. Look down and see what death is doing. She's trying to snap Leontes out of it. Look, your wife is dying. She's grieving here. Leontes says, take her hence, her heart is but overcharged, she will recover. I have too much believed mine own suspicion. Beseech you tenderly, apply to her some remedies for life. So now he's like, save her, save her. And we know that he's just gone a bit mad and got jealous for like no reason. Well, because someone left his court, he's just gone a bit like, what? So now he doesn't want her to die. In the whole previous beginning of this speech, he is hard as stone with Hermione. And yet now she swoons at the news of the fact their child, their firstborn son, the heir to his throne, is dead. He changes his tune. And then this is important as well. Exit Paulina and ladies with Hermione. So they take her off to nurse her. And then we've got a lovely speech from Leontes. In fact, I should have probably done this speech. Why did I? It's because I always focus on the women. It's because I focus on the women. Maybe we'll come back to this. He has a lovely speech where he's kind of regretting his actions. Okay. Then Paulina enters. So all Paulina's heard is him say, take her hence, help her, all of this. She hasn't heard his regret, his sorrows, his realization that he's been an absolute idiot. She comes in shock, in a state of anguish, in some kind of, ugh. And how do we know that? Because she says this, woe the while, oh, cut my lace, lest my heart, cracking it, break too. What does that mean? Well, first thing we need to do is notice two things that I go on about all the time with Shakespeare, a big O and a big exclamation mark. She says two sentences, woe the while, exclamation mark, oh, cut my lace, lest my heart, cracking it, break to, exclamation mark. Whenever there is an O or an exclamation, something big is happening for this person. There needs to be some sort of passion, awakening, anger, love, something. It's an indication from the writer that something more is going on than simply a full stop and cut my lace. We've got an O. Have a go now, like make that sound. Oh, how can you make it? Oh, oh, oh. There are so many ways it can be interpreted. So have a think, what's fitting of this situation? Hermione and Paulina are probably the bestest of friends. And now she's come in because, spoiler alert, Hermione's just died. So we don't see Hermione actually dying. We see her swoon and get carried off to be fixed, and then she comes back. And remember this, I know I've done the spoiler alert. Paulina doesn't say it just yet. She doesn't come out and go, she's dead, the Queen is dead. She doesn't do that. At first, we've got these two lines, woe the while, oh, cut my lace, lest my heart, cracking it, break too. So at the moment, I would say she's in a state of shock. She's just processing her own emotion and reaction to this situation. And what she's saying, woe the while. If something is woeful, it's sad. Look up these words, really get to know them. And it's woe the while. And then we've got another O. So she opens with a woe, and the next vowel sound, noise she makes, is another O. So we've got two really big open vowel sounds that really can depict how humans not develop, but get out their emotions. You hear about women wailing in the street, and in some countries, you know, in Britain, we're very much stiff upper lip, blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't like that in Shakespeare's time. It was a much more gutsy way of living, you know. I think we've got to remember that. We would have felt it and thought it, and it would have come out of us, unless we were really, like, you know, high up the food chain, maybe. But even then, I still think, you know, have you ever watched, this is a good reference actually. Oh my God, what's it? It's got Olivia Colman in it, Rachel Weisz, who's like my absolute fave, and Emma Stone. Not The Servant, anyone know that film? Anyway, Olivia Colman plays this queen, but you see how erratic she is, how passionate she is, how like she'll just quickly switch. Think of that kind of time where we could behave like that and get away with it. More childish reactions before they're beaten out of us as adults. The Favourite, Ernest, I knew you'd save me there. The Favourite, yes, it's a great example, I think, actually. I've only just made that connection, but it's a great example of how back in the olden days, yes, we had this preconceived idea that women had to stay in their place and women had to do this, and you know, even men, like anyone of a higher rank, had to behave themselves at all times. They were the ones that could get away with more shizzle, I think. So anyway, carrying back onto this, woe the while, sad the while. This while is sadness. That's how I would translate that. Oh, cut my lace, lest my heart cracking it break too. Women traditionally wore corsets. I think what she's saying here is cut my corset open, lest my heart, unless my heart cracking it break too. I think she's feeling claustrophobic at this point, but I think her heart is breaking open. And I think I read, and this is the thing, be really wary of like written translations from like Schmoop or what's that other one as well, like No Fear Shakespeare. Like they're not that helpful, I think, sometimes. I read one earlier, just having a little, I like to see what they've written. And it says something about she's struggling to breathe, so she's asking someone to open her corset. No, she isn't. She's saying it's gonna break. She's feeling like a bursting open. An opening is happening in her chest. Her chest is being ripped open. She's not asking anyone to do anything too. She's just exclaiming stuff about how she's feeling, I think. So yeah, it's really, really, it's a great way to kind of come in after we see Leonti's regret. Then we've got this immediate drama of Paulina coming in, saying all of this. Woe the while, oh, cut my lace, lest my heart, cracking it, break too. And do you see how I like really articulate those words there? And I'm leveling up, and it might feel really big and look really big, but it's better to go big with Shakespeare and rein it in when you need to, than just keep it really contemporary and, oh, cut my heart, cut my corset, my heart is breaking. You can't do Shakespeare like that. You've really got to level up with it, and commit to the emotions that your characters are feeling. And so, yeah, just coming back to actors training, actually, even if you're not that kind of person that really shares your emotions and you've done Meisner to High Heaven or whatever, which is great, love all of that, you've got to be able to access the extreme, I think, especially with Shakespeare. So interesting, actually, I've picked all of these speeches recently because this one in particular is so passionate and fiery and grief-stricken and probably larger than life. But is it? If we can access it and do that, it's not larger than life. It is part of what someone can get out of their system. Part of, I'm sure there's someone in the world, one person at least in the world, who would react like this, hearing that the best friend, her maiden woman, her best friend has died. They would collapse to the floor and cry and scream and wail. It is part of our process as human beings. And an important part of the grieving process, I think. So anyway, all of that being said, that's what she's saying. We've kind of covered that, haven't we? Cut my lace, cut my corset, my dress open, lest my heart, unless my heart, cracking it, break too. There we go. I think that's quite straightforward. And then Lord one Lord says, what fit is this, good lady? Another really clear example from Shakespeare. She needs to appear like she's having a fit, like she is having some sort of tantrum, outburst, uncontrollable exclamation, physically and vocally, because that's what he says. What fit is this, good lady? And he says, good lady. Interesting now. The respect is back there a little bit. And then Paulina shouts. Well, she doesn't shout necessarily, but she comes straight for, I think, Leontes. That opening line is a question. What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me? Oh, I haven't read it all actually yet, have I? Never mind. I'll do that in a minute after I just talk through this bit. I've got too excited about it because it's so good. She asks the question and she says tyrant. She doesn't say tyrants, and I'm not convinced she's talking to the Lord. I'm confident she is coming straight for Leontes here. If I were doing it, that is what I would do. Because she has witnessed this whole scene unfold where Leontes is hard as stone, knocking Hermione down, not believing his wife, despite knowing she is the most virtuous person in this world. And she's asking him, what studied torments? And again, study, it's not just torments, it's studied torments. So a torment, something torments someone, it's torturous, it's, goading, jabbing, oof, awful, studied. He studied these torments. Or people have in general. Again, make your clear decision. Which of these torments, studied torments that we humans inflict on each other, and she goes on to list them after this bit, tyrant, hast for me. What have you got for me, tyrant? But it's not that, it's what torments, tyrant, have you got for me? Okay, and again, the Lord wouldn't probably inflict that on someone as high a stature as Paulina, even though she's married to a Lord, I guess. Maybe. Leontes is the power, the driving force here, trying to convince Hermione of all of this treason and rubbish that he's just kind of made up. So straight away she goes for him, and I think there is a real, and again, I think that says a lot. Unlike Hermione's speech, where she is a little bit fumbly and a little bit like misunderstanding and just clearly going to say, look, I'm not guilty. I don't think you understand. I understand why I'm on trial here. This Paulina is in there. She is in there going for it and straight away asking him a question. Hermione didn't do that in her speech. She doesn't ask any questions actually until she never asks any questions. Oh, she does at the end. Now, my liege, tell me what blessings I have here alive that I should fear to die. In fact, that's not even a question, is it? It's a statement. And so Paulina is coming straight in with the questions. Do you see how punctuation is so important? So really do pay attention in film scripts, play scripts, novels, Shakespeare, you've really got to honour the punctuation. And if a writer hasn't put much in, that's a choice in itself. I do find that actually hinders actors. It didn't really help that much. I've seen quite a lot of contemporary playwrights doing that, and I don't know, I find it really, it's more of a challenge, which is good, but I think as a writer, you have the chance to give more direction and directorial and thought springboards for your actors and the story and the characters if you use punctuation properly. So I've done those first two bits. Let me just read up to the segment we're going to do, which is only like 10, 15 lines or so. And we'll get through it a little bit quicker now. I feel like I'm having a real passionate rave about this, but it's so good. I'm not going to access the emotions straight away, okay? This is a read through to lift it off the page for you. I'm not here to show off my acting or to receive criticism for my acting or compliments for my acting. I'm just here to lift it off the page and give it a go, okay? So I'm actually going to go from, woe the while. So here we go, brace yourself. Woe the while. Oh, cut my lace, lest my heart, cracking it, break too. What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me? What wheels, racks, fires? What flaying, boiling in leads or oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies, Fancies too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed, stark mad. For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing. That did but show thee of a fool, inconstant and damnable ingrateful. I feel like I should have carried on, but we'll get to that next week, so come back for next week. And I'll always open with a reading. I don't know why I didn't this time. It's because I was so excited. So, could you feel the spit in that? The language and the vowel sounds and the consonants are very spitty and hissy. Studied, torments, tyrant, has for me. I think it's hast for me, I was about to say, hast. She's hissing, and this is what I say about this witchy kind of quality. It's almost like a fire spits, you know, spit, 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 spit. I feel like she is coming in a ball of fire at this point. Ernest says she leans into the upcoming punishment. May still be bad, very bad, but she kind of takes control of the narrative, totally. And I think Hermione did that as well in the beginning that we've seen. And again, that's what makes this completely contradicts the whole argument that Shakespeare's women are a bit like, no, they're not. They are taking control and undermining the male in the room. It happens a lot in Shakespeare's plays. There's a brilliant scene where Queen Margaret, is it Queen Margaret? In one of the histories is literally like, you are not a man, you are not a king, like, we are leaving, goodbye. And it's just like insanely brilliant. Anyway, we'll come to that, another speech week. But exactly, she's taking control of it. She's asking for it. Just like Hermione did, it's kind of an extension of that. Hermione is saying, spare your threats, the bug which you would fright me with I seek. To me can life be no commodity. I'm not looking to live anymore. Just give it to me. I want to clear my honour for my children. That's it. And the same with Paulina. She comes in, so what torments, tyrant, have you got for me? So what am I going to get then if you've done this to my lady? Let's whiz through it and translate it again. What wheels, racks, fires? And I did do a little reading up on this because I was like, is it anything to do with a Catherine wheel? Because I remember bonfire night, they used to do a Catherine wheel, and I didn't know exactly why, but I thought it was some sort of torture device. So reading this again, I was like, interesting. So apparently, this is according to some research, I can't remember where I saw it actually. If you were sentenced, so you know there was lots of like crazy torturous devices back in the olden days that you know, thieves and murderers and rapists and stuff, well, would they, I don't know, would, you know, be sentenced to. Hung, drawn and quartered is another one that's, you know, I believe Guy Fawkes, was he hung, drawn and quartered? He was burnt at the stake, wasn't he? Was he hung, drawn and then, I don't know, I can't remember. Anywho, there was lots of crazy ways to torture people and kill them. And wheels, if you were sentenced to death by the wheel, apparently they would literally just get like a wheel that had like iron around it often, break all of your bones, and then sometimes weave you in the wheel and stick you on a spoke and spin you round. And then set fire to you if that wasn't enough, or behead you after all of that. Or sometimes you were beheaded first and then all your bones were broken and then they did it. Can we just have a minute for how disgusting and awful that must be? So the fact that she's bringing that up, what wheels, racks, and again the racks, stretching racks, they used to pull out people's fingers and dislocate their bones, all of these crazy horrible things, and set people on fire and burn people, give them markings and brand them and things. She's asking, what have you got for me then? What wheels am I going to be put on? What racks, what fires? Question mark in my copy. Always check different versions and lean into what gives you more drama, punctuation wise. Different editors will give you different punctuations, and it's really important to make sure that you pick the one that resonates with you the most and makes the most sense, I think. And he says, yeah, it could really ruin your whole morning. Yes, it could. It's a good point, actually. You know, I get annoyed if my coffee tastes a bit bitter, but actually, could be worse, couldn't it? Brilliant. So And then she goes on, she asks another question. So now she's diverted her energy to the aunties. She's asking questions. What studied torments, tyrant, has for me? What have you got for me? What wheels, racks, fires? 3 things. What flaying, boiling in leads or oils? Flaying, let's look up flaying. That's quite an unusual word. And I think I thought flailing, but actually I'm not entirely sure what flaying is. So, as always, please look up in a dictionary. And here we go, straight away, top of the page. It says, known, oh Christ, it says, sorry, it says also known colloquially as skinning. She's not saying, oh, what horrible things are you going to do to me? She's being incredibly specific and picking the most horrific of torments, studied torments that we have at our disposal. And he says it's bad, really bad, don't look. Isn't that awful? I didn't even know that. So she says, what flaying, what skinning, boiling in leads or oils. I knew of that one as well. They sometimes put you in boiling water. Can you imagine? And again, if you're burn, it's not boiling in water. It's not even that. Lead, dangerous thing. Oils, that's gonna rip your flesh off. Like, it's insane. Great question, Ryden says, was she being sarcastic? I absolutely believe there is a sense of this, like, what then? What next, Leontes? So yes, I absolutely think, I mean, maybe not sarcastic on all of them. There needs to be a reason why she carries on. He doesn't answer her back at these questions. He doesn't go, oh, well, I had you down for a beheading at 12:30, actually, my love. So if you wouldn't mind, that's fine, just shush. What's happening with mine? Doesn't do that, right? Hyperbolic. What does that mean, Ernest? Quickly looking it up. Hyperbolic. Relating to hyperbola. Deliberately exaggerated. Absolutely. She is going again to the extreme. I think as well, because we know she's, well, we don't, but she's about to tell us that Hermione is dead. She's saying, what could you possibly do to me now? And again, it's a very similar argument to what Hermione is doing. You've taken my firstborn from me. You've taken my secondborn from me. You've declared me a strumpet in front of the whole of the country. You've put me on trial here before I have got strength of limit and before I've had the childbed privilege that I deserve, as every woman does. What next could you possibly do to me now, husband? Exactly the same with Paulina here, except I think she is going through it a totally different extreme, and probably more of the extreme I would lean into because of my personality, and that I would expect Hermione maybe would lean into more. And I think Shakespeare is deliberately giving us the contrast of Hermione's eloquent, deliberate arguments and grace, and still having this love for Leontes despite his absolute dick behavior. And then we've got the fire, the visceral, the absolutely enraged passion from Paulina later on in the scene. So I think he's done that intentionally to give us two sides of the female, two sides of the feminine. I was about to say rage, because I do think Hermione is raging, but she covers it. It's a really, really interesting, multifaceted exploration of how a woman can behave, how anyone can behave, but in this scene with these characters, these female identifying characters can behave. That's the word I was looking for. Well done, Ryden. The implication, hi Rodney, says, the implication she's labeling him as being potentially that evil. Yeah, 100%. Almost, yes, Satan-like, I guess, you know, monster. He is just dishing out evil. Really good point, Rodney. I like that. And I hadn't thought of the word evil. In fact, I don't know if it, I reckon it might even come into play at some point later on in the scene. New Zealand, England, and the US, 3 gay countries separated by a common language. She will test him to see if he is comfortable with that label. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Good chat, everyone. And yeah, we're proper like all over the globe now, aren't we? If you're watching this back, let me know where you're zooming in from, because Yeah, it's exciting. I love it. I love the internet. It's so magical. Anyway, plowing on. What wheels, racks, fires? Question mark. What flaying? What flaying? Boiling in leads or oils. I'm that enjambment there. Boiling in leads or oils. Let it rise. I think it's really important to do that. And it's a question mark. And then we've got another question. These are 4 questions. 4 questions back to back. Asking what torture is coming for her. What next? What next, Leontes? Brilliant. And so she says next, what old or newer torture must I receive? And here I think we got some sarcasm right in. I think here in particular, what old or newer torture must I receive whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? See the hissing and the T sounds we've got again, of thy most worst. See how I'm really hitting those? I'm not saying you should all the time, but while I'm working on a speech, I will always hit these consonants because they inform you more about how your character is feeling and why they've picked that word. So good. So say what old or newer torture? So what old ideas of torture? You know, hanging, hung, drawn, and quarters. Maybe they're the older ones, or newer, like maybe the wheel. I don't know the history of these torture techniques. Torture must I receive? And I do think it is. I would normally resist the urge to stress the personal pronouns, because I used to do it all the time. And John Hartock, who is like the Shakespeare of the king of Shakespeare, who I love, he picked me up on it while I was training. He said, just stressing those a bit too much. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I realized what I was doing. And it's because I wasn't understanding the language properly. So, okay. However, here, if you ride the rhythm, it does stress the I. It says, must I receive whose every word deserves. So I would stress the I here. What old or newer torture must I receive whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? So what do I need to receive? Because every one of my words deserves your worst. Everything I am going to say deserves the worst thing you could possibly do to me. So there's a reason she's picking these absolutely horrific forms of torture. Like I said, it's not a quick, oh, just chop off your pinky and on your way. She's saying, which of these do I deserve? Because my words are going to come at you now. And again, this reinforces what I was saying when she directly comes, what studies torment tyrant has for me. I think she's straight onto Leontes. It's all his fault that this is happening, that Hermione is dead, that Mamilius is dead, and that his daughter is gone. Okay, so brilliant. And I love that. And I do think maybe here, yes, it's a challenge, exactly. So what can you do to me? I deserve your worst because I'm slagging you off like a champion right now. Yet your wife, and again, I don't think it's there, but she has to have in her mind's eye as well, your wife never did a damn thing wrong, because she didn't. She was chaste, she was true, she was honourable, and yet here you are killing her. So what am I going to get when I actually have done wrong and absolutely torn you a new one? Got a French opera that ends with boiling in oil. Halavé, la juive. Is that how you say it? Juive. Juive? Juive. Juive. Who knows? Yikes, never did like fondue. Definitely not for a fondue now either. Talk about all this boiling and lots of oils. I'm getting very hot now. Okay, so carrying on then. I love that bit. What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Question mark. And then she's coming in. I think she might have maybe let the passion subside a little bit and get on with her argument. Thy tyranny, your tyrannous behaviour, your violence, your threatening behaviour. Violent, I think, is a really good word to think of when you say tyranny. Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies. So his violent nature combined with his jealousies, which Hermione's talking about, like only his jealousies have awoken all of this, the proof, because everything else is sleeping. I was about to say sleeping else. Your violence is together working with your jealousies. It's not just with jealousies, it's your jealousies. So I do think, like I said, there is this cutting in at Leontes here. And I would stress that probably. Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies, fancy. And then she goes on to explain, I've actually put a semicolon there probably, but in my edition it says a comma. I'm going to change that right now. Fancy's too weak for boys. So this bit I kind of feel like could be in brackets. She's expanding on his jealousies, I think. Fancies, if something is a fancy, it's a, you know, a mystical idea. Let him play with his fancies, let him be in his own little world. She says fancies too weak for boys. Now she's coming in with the insults here. Hello. Your jealousies, so, and we could say jealousies again actually, jealousies too weak for boys. To call a man a boy is an insult, right? But then to say his fantasies are weak, are too weak for a boy, she's really plugging in the whole childishness of his behaviour here. Fancies too weak for boys, love this. Too green and idle for girls of 9. So she brings up young boys and young girls here to say how childish, how weak, how green and idle. Something's idle, it's kind of, you know, useless, isn't it? Again, look all of these words up and get in your brain and your being what that means to you. Because they're different things. She doesn't just say too green for girls of 9. She says too green and idle for girls. And she doesn't just say for girls, she specifies girls of 9. Why that age? Perhaps look that up. Infantile, perfect, Rodney, exactly. Oh, it's so good. I can't believe I've never done this speech before. I'm such a fool. I'm as foolish as Leontes, you could say. Oh, she talks about foolery actually, doesn't she? So too green and idle for girls of 9. Oh, a lovely, lovely gift from Shakespeare. I've got a big O. Actually, I've got something to show you before I forget. I'll do it at the end, so do stick around. I've got something fun to share with you. Girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done. So she's saying, think about, working backwards, think about what they have done. Your tyranny and your jealousies combined, think about what they have done. You know, these jealousies, these fancies that are too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Think what they have done. Not just think what they've done. Oh, think what they have done. There is some more passion, something going on there. And then, so she doesn't even just say, think what you've done. She says, think what you've done, and then run mad indeed. If someone ran mad back in those days, you'd have gone to an asylum. You know, there was no real healthcare back in these days. Again, remember. So it was a real thing where people would kind of go a bit mad, and it would be a bit of gossip, and these people, you know, would run stark mad probably. And that's what she's telling him to do. And coming back to this witchy vibe that I said I kind of like and get from her, I feel like at this point she is conjuring him almost to do these things. You know, go on, do it. Not egging him on because he doesn't want to do that, but she knows he probably will. And she could come out and say, your jealousies and your tyranny have killed Hermione. The queen is gone. But she doesn't. She goes on goading him, probing him, pushing him to feel the weight and the burden of his actions. And if that ain't a fierce, loyal, best friend, I don't know what is. So carrying on. So we still haven't even finished this sentence yet. And then run mad indeed. Stark mad. And again, stark mad. What does that mean? I'm going to let you guys look it up. For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. For all your a foolery, your silly actions, your childish, you know, your little a bygone foolery is you know, a silly thing that's gone past, silly action that you've done, or silly thing that you've said, gone past, no big deal. It's a little light thing, were but spices of it. She's saying that what you've done up to this point is just a taste of what's to come that is going to make you run stark mad. Does all of this make sense? Let me know. I'm really fancying some chips. I don't have any though, never mind. Just letting you in to my little longing. It's coming up to lunchtime here, so I'm a little bit hungry. Yes, Rodney, brilliant, brilliant. He says it seems like this is her version, seems like it's her version of a curse on him. It's like her version of a curse on him. Exactly. I think so. And, you know, there could even be some kind of, you know, when someone's just, like, I'm a very physical person. I probably would, like, imagine I've got the force going on and I'm crushing his brain with my freaking hands and head and gritting my teeth and getting in there and squeezing my biceps. I'd probably be like that. So explore all of that physically. What could she be doing there to goad him on, to push him, owning the room? And she absolutely is owning the room. And it's not even a room, is it? It's an open air court. So I think she would fill this space. Oh man, can't even cope. And because we know the ending of the play, if you don't know the ending, it's fine. But there is a kind of supernatural vibe. I feel like it can come through here for sure. 100% for sure. And who knows, maybe it's Paulina's doing. I don't know, we need to decide that. So, then we've got that full stop. For all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. So she's saying your jealousies and your tyranny were all bygone fooleries, childish behaviour, too green, blah, 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 too weak for boys. All of that was just a spice of it. And again, spice. How hissy a word. Can you get even a more hissy a word than that? Spice. Spices of it. So we've got 3 of those spices of it. 3 hisses in 1 word. Thank you, Shakespeare. What a gift for us as actors. Rodney also says, so like the curse laid on Rigoletto, as he is acting infantile, his job. Sorry, another opera reference. Is that the same opera? Honestly, I need to watch more opera for sure. In fact, there's Opera North up here. They've just done a little night music. It's on tour. I think it's at the Leeds Playhouse soon. Really want to go see it. I mean, that's a Sondheim. So not quite opera, but it's very operatic score. If you've never actually seen or listened to that, go. It's brilliant. It's chilling. Brilliant. Now I understand the Spice Girls. Exactly. They were inspired by Paulina out of A Winter's Tale. Didn't you know? Good. So there we are. We have a full stop there. She takes a proper breath here. Full stops must be honoured. Make sure you don't skim over them. There's a reason you stop and start again. So think of it. That's your job to decide as the actor. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing. That's the next bit. So now she brings up Polixenes, that you betrayedst, and again, betrayedst. These are all little things that, again, make certain actors brilliant. If you can do that sound, betrayedst, practice these consonant clusters. They're really helpful for articulation. In whatever accent you've got, make sure you practice these things. Because when they come up and you just skim over it, it's a waste. Betrayedst. Try saying that. Betrayedst. It's not just betrayed. It's more tradest. There are 3 excellent consonants there that you can get through with whatever you're saying, whatever's behind the words you're saying. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing. That did but show thee of a fool, inconstant and damnable ingrateful. That you betrayed, you know, one of your oldest friends, Polixenes. That was nothing. But it did show of you a fool, inconstant and damnable ingrateful. So that was nothing, that you did that was nothing, but it did show you as an inconstant, as an idiot, unloyal, that wasn't the word I was going for, unfaithful, disloyal, and damnable, ungrateful, and damnable as well. Like we talked about, almost this satanic, hellish, language she's using at the beginning. If something is damnable, it's going to hell. If you are damned, that's not like a light-hearted thing that we'd maybe think about as people who are kind of like, half-assed Christians or whatever. No, like, you're that ungrateful, you've been that foolish and that inconstant, you are damned. So it's much heavier and bigger than the modern take we might put on that word. So bear that in mind. And damnable, ingrateful. And again, it's not just ingrateful, it's damnable, ingrateful. You are damned for this. And because we have a full stop in my versions anyway here, I do think there is a bit more composure, and maybe a bit more of a Hermione composure now coming from Paulina. This, she's stating these things. She's not raving at him or crying about them. I think there's a real power that can come from her gut and root her at this moment in time. So we're going to leave it there. I know. But do you see, if you're new here, welcome. Do you see how much work we have to do and how much talking and exploration we can do? And I believe we should do when we're looking at this kind of script and this language. It's so important to have done all of this, what I call back work. It comes through when you act it a totally different way. So I'll read it all again. I'm going to just do something different. This is not how I do it. Again, I've, like I said, never actually acted or studied this properly before. So let's just see what happens. What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me? What wheels, racks, fires? What flaying, boiling in leads or oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Thy tyranny, together working with thy jealousies, fancies too weak for boys, too green and idle for girls of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad. Indeed, stark mad, for all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing, that did but show thee of a fool, inconstant, and damnable ingrateful. I'm going to read on. Nor 'twas much thou wouldst have poisoned good Camillo's honour, to have him kill a king. Poor trespasses, more monstrous, standing by, whereof I reckon the casting forth to crows thy baby daughter to be or none or little, though a devil would have shed water out of fire ere dumped. Nor is't directly laid to thee the death of the young prince, whose honourable thoughts high for one so tender, cleft the heart that could conceive a gross and foolish sire, blemished his gracious dam. This is not, no, late at thy answer, but the last. O lords, when I have cried, when I have said, cry woe, the queen, the sweetest, dearest creatures dead, and vengeance for it not dropped down yet. Wow, so much more to be done with that. That was very direct, and I was really getting my lips and teeth around the language, but that's a starting place. Wowzers, wowzers, wowzers. Then she says, the queen is dead. There's not even that, is it? The sweetest, dearest creatures dead, and vengeance and the revenge for her death, the vengeance of her death has not dropped down yet. That's a threat to me. Jeez Louise. But we're going to come to that second half next week. And we are going to do it slightly differently, guys. So next week, what I am going to do is actually pre-record this and have it slightly edited and made into a bit more of an actual video. And I'm going to premiere it live. Premiere it live at 1 o'clock. And I will be alive with the chat. So although I won't be talking to you like this, I just want to try it and see if it does anything for the algorithm and all of that sort of thing, and help to get the quality of the videos up a little bit more. So I will see you next week for sure. Any thoughts or feelings on that, do let me know. And I really enjoyed this. Isn't this amazing? And he says, oh, we was just getting started. Oh, well, passing is next week. Sorry, nice to see you. Really, really good to see all of you. Thank you all for joining in. Anyone watching back, thank you and well done for investing in your craft, investing time and energy and brain space into this. It's really good work. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we trial the new way of a speech a week. I can't wait. I'll see you then. Have a lovely, lovely day. Were you going to who us something? Oh, yeah, it was. Thank you, Raiden, sorry. So I went out of storage. I got my t-shirt back and a few other things. This is a mug I got from Waterstones ages ago, and it's my pen pot. But it's a Shakespearean insult mug. So I'm going to leave you with one Shakespearean insult from a Shakespeare mug. And I don't know which one it's going to be. Let's just see. Oh, gull. Oh, dolt. As ignorant as dirt. There's a little Shakespeare insult for you. So if anyone ever annoys you over the coming week, until next week when I give you another Shakespearean insult, just say that they're as ignorant as dirt and call them a gull or a dolt, as in D-O-L-T. I mean, look those up. Maybe don't just do it to like anyone. That's not very nice, is it? And obviously say it in jest. I'm not encouraging you to go out and spread hate on the world. But I thought that'd be a bit of fun. A couple with Pippa. I've got 2 cuppers, all the cuppers. I'd like to drink out of it. It's the right size for me. I like a big mug, but it's too inked up from all my pens over the years. Anyway, really good to see you. You're welcome, Ryden. Good to see you all. Thank you so much, Rodney and Ernest, for joining in as always. I'll see you next week in a different format, but nonetheless, I'm really looking forward to it. Bye for now.